Hello out there. Hey guys. For you, those of you watching on YouTube, you can see I'm wearing my Patriots hat and a 98.5 Sports Hub t-shirt. We got a special episode today. Rob Hardy Poole from 98.5 The Sports Hub from the Zolak and Bertrand show, and also from the Sports Hub Golf Club, which is how we met. But before I get into that and introducing him, I just want to say I hope everybody's doing well out there. I hope you're staying safe and staying home. This is a very challenging time for all of us. It's a great time to reprioritize and look at the things that are important in our lives. Most of the things that we were worrying about 4 or 5 weeks ago are now pretty insignificant given what's happening. And that's really what Zilosophy is all about. Why I started it was because I thought that there was something available there to reprioritize for all of us what's important in life. So I hope you've been enjoying the podcast and the TV show, Zilosophy TV with Uncle Z and Friends. Episode 1's on YouTube. Episode 2 is coming. I filmed 90% of it before lockdown happened. I've just had a difficult time getting to the editing of it all and shooting the last little bits at home and on Zoom so that I can air it. But stay tuned, that's coming too. I've also hit a pretty important financial challenge with this. I was funding most of Zilosophy with my live talks, which just went away, as you can imagine, due to social distancing. So I'm still doing the podcast. I'm still doing the TV show. I'm doing Zoom talks. I just launched a GoFundMe, Zilosophy for Families on Lockdown. So I'm doing Zoom talks for families. You can go pitch in money there. Hire me to do a Zoom talk with your family. Also, there's an added benefit if you donate at least $100. I'll do a Zoom talk for your family that's on lockdown and also for another family that can't afford it. So I'm trying to help in any way I can for those people who are struggling out there and need some perspective and awareness on prioritizing, again, what's important in life and how do we become our best authentic selves so that we can do the best by our families and ourselves and our communities. There's other ways you can contribute. You can go to PayPal and you can send me money via z@zilosophy.org. That's zilosophy.org, z@zilosophy.org. You can also Venmo me money at Michael-Zildjian is my Venmo. Any little bit helps. I'm struggling to just keep this thing going so that I can continue to provide content that's meaningful and that makes a difference in the world. So anything that you can contribute is helpful. Another way to contribute is by buying my book. Let me get it in frame here for those who are on YouTube. It is Zilosophy on Golf by me, Michael A. Zildjian, Observations on the Parallels Between Life and Golf. It is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook, all on Amazon. It's a great book, not just for golfers. This is Masters Week, which is another reason why it's a good week to talk about Zilosophy on golf, because I am a big golfer and I am a big golf fan. But one thing I haven't talked about a lot is that this book is really just a letter to myself for the things that I think I needed to work on at the time and things that I still need to work on. So there's things like patience, acceptance, visualizing what you want, committing to that brief moment of impact when you hit the shot, and using all those parallels into life. I mean, it's ironic that I couldn't be doing what I am doing now without having written this book, because it caused me to work on a lot of things. Self-criticism is a big thing that I fight with. Each chapter, there's 18 chapters, like the holes of a golf course, and you score yourself to par on each one. And on the self-criticism chapter, I gave myself a double bogey. And I kind of now vacillate between a double bogey and a bogey, sometimes par. Very rarely do I birdie on the self-criticism part, but I'm working on it, and I continue to work on it. And all of this stuff in here is stuff that you can work on. At the end of every chapter, there's a scoring chart and some practice drills and pro tips on things to work on. So again, it's not just about golf. It's about how do we become the best authentic versions of ourselves so that we do the best that we can every day. And again, so that we do the best by our families, by our communities, by our state, our country, and the whole world. One thing that this pandemic has shown us is that we are all connected, whether we like it or not. So maybe we should act like it, and maybe we should work on the things to do our best so that we can eventually lead by example and encourage other people to do their best, not by judging and shaming them, which I've seen a lot of lately with the pandemic, and I've done it too. But by encouraging each other to try our best and to do our best. So that's that. For today's guest, again, we have Rob Hardy Poole from the Zolak and Bertrand show. Very excited. He's become a good friend. We haven't been able to play golf yet, and then I guess we're just friends. After we play golf, we'll be good friends. But we've talked a lot about the book. I've been on his show, Sports Hub Golf Club. I've done the National Golf Expo in Boston right before the pandemic started with him, which we talk about a little bit in this episode. He's a big fan of Zilosophy on golf. I'm a big fan of him on the Zolak and Bertrand show. I like that show. I haven't been listening because, as you can see by the background, I'm self-quarantining with family down in Florida. And he's also a big Zildjian cymbal fan. So we've got a lot of connection, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We talk about, again, doing our best and working on the things that we can control within the framework of golf. But that's just a metaphor, something that in the book I say, a seemingly trivial metaphor. You could be asking yourself, well, why are you talking about golf at a time like this? Well, because golf's a great teacher. It's a very challenging sport, just like life. And if we pay attention, we can learn a lot from golf on how to live a better life and how to be our best. And by being our best and being our best person, it also helps us play better golf, which for you golfers out there is really key. It's certainly helped my golf game, but more importantly, it's helped me as a person. In fact, the best compliment I've ever gotten is that a guy in San Diego said to me, when I was at a golf clinic, he said, Z, I really appreciate your book. I love your book. It's made me a better golfer. More importantly, it's made me a better dad. And that's the point. Golf is great. It's fun. I hope that we get back to a point where we can just laugh and have fun and play golf and do trivial things like that. Right now, things are a little more serious. But it can teach us a lot about how to be a better person, to be a better dad, to be a better brother, be a better daughter, be a better mother, sister, whatever. So I hope you enjoyed the conversation I had with Artie as much as I had it. I got, again, my Pats hat and my Sports Hub hat on in honor of my good friend Hardy. And here it comes, coming right up, Rob Hardy Poole on the Zilosophy podcast. All right, here we go. Zilosophy podcast special guest, Rob Hardy Poole from the Zolak and Bertrand show on 98.5 The Sports Hub. How you doing, Hardy?
Good, Michael. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there, man. Interesting times.
You look like you are quarantining in a much nicer place than I am right now. Are those palm trees I see in the background there?
Yeah, that's the reflection of them. That's the window behind me, but it casts a good background. Yeah, so a month ago, we did, literally just over a month ago, a few days over a month, we did the Golf Expo in Boston, and I came on stage with you. We did a little Zilosophy talk. You're a big Zilosophy on golf fan. We'll get into that in a minute. Wow, things have changed a lot in a month, huh?
Oh my God. Well, it's so funny because I was thinking back to the expos. We were getting ready to talk today, and how I don't know that there were any measures in place at the end of February, beginning of March. I don't remember doing certainly no social distancing. There wasn't anything to make us feel that we were going to be doing.
It was about March 12th, I think, if I remember correctly, they started to put the social distancing things in place because we were doing a volunteer thing for our Masonic Lodge that night, sending some packages to some overseas vets. And a few of the guys, it was very early, so people are like, are we doing it? I don't feel comfortable. And I told everyone, if you don't feel comfortable, don't come. But we're not going to let these soldiers down. We're going to wear gloves and clean our hands and stay as safe as we can, because there's no information barely at that time.
Right.
I remember telling you short after that, well, I'm going to book it south to Florida. My Nashville talks hadn't been canceled yet. And I figured, well, if this gets really bad, which it has, I want to be stuck there, not in Boston. And you were like, dude, Are you okay?
Yeah, well, you were one of the. I will hand it to you, Michael. You were one of the early believers in terms of like how bad this was going to get, and what it was going to force people into. And I'd say you made the right call, especially since it's been raining nonstop in Boston for the last 2 days. But
It feels like the right call. I mean, and I was, I have friends in the medical field, and I'm a super math nerd from my childhood days, and I was just watching the numbers overseas at that point. And then I started watching them here, and a few people actually got upset with me because I was posting it like we're climbing the charts. But what I was doing is trying to wake up any non-believers out there that this is real and this is actually happening, and we should pay attention to the math involved because it's astonishing.
yeah, it truly is. And you look at the other models and you try and decide, well, what is most likely going to happen where you live or around the country. And it's all sobering. And, there are no answers. Unfortunately, there are results, which is, what we're kind of left with right now. And, I just, I guess I wish everybody would kind of get on the same page, and there would maybe be a little bit more in the way of kind of like a far-reaching philosophy in terms of what we're supposed to be doing. There are far too many people kind of still doing their own thing right now, and
Yeah.
it's
Like you said before we went on, there's no playbook for this, so it's hard. One thing
right.
I've learned is over, well, let me just finish this conversation. Just 3 weeks ago, I was in New York on my way down. Now, I didn't go out anywhere. It was not locked down yet. In fact, 3 weeks ago today, the bars are still open 50% in New York City. I
Wow.
went from my friend's apartment to their bar, which isn't open yet, and we had our own little private birthday party for my friend. It's like 4 people, and then scooted out of town. And fast forward 3 weeks later, there was a couple thousand cases in the U.S. at that time. I'm actually looking at the numbers now. We're at 278,000 in three
Wow.
weeks. And in New York, there was nothing going on at that time, and now we're up to like 1,500 deaths in New York
Hmm.
alone.
Yeah.
So
And I remember, excuse me, talking with a friend of mine in Michigan. Again, this is about 2 3 weeks ago, and I said, "Wow, what's the secret there?" When you're looking at the map of the U.S., there are no cases yet in the entire state of Michigan. There were like two states left where there were no confirmed cases, and
yeah, West Virginia was the last.
yeah, and next thing you know, Detroit is one of the hot spots. And I have friends and
That's
family.
where you're from, right?
That is where I'm from, and I have friends and family there, and thank God they're all still okay. But yeah, this is something that is I think this will end up impacting us more long term than literally anything else that at least you and I have lived through, Michael.
I'm again one of the early adopters. I've been saying already for maybe a week and a half now, the world will be forever changed for this. There's no going back to the way it was.
Right,
We can
right.
go back to normal life at some point. We don't know how long. That could be months or even up to a year before that fully happens, or maybe even longer than a year. I heard yesterday there might be 6 waves of this, and this is just the first.
Yeah,
But there's no question everybody will be changed, and I think that we should be, and that's sort of what I want to get into talking to you about with regards to golf, because you're a big golf fan.
yeah.
Actually, this is all a ruse. Now that I've got you warmed up, I want you to talk about Tom Brady conspiracy theories, and is Antonio Brown now going to the Bucks? I
Well,
mean, would you want to jump off a bridge if you had to talk about that during non-work hours?
I tell you what, we are grateful for any sports topic these days.
Yeah, right.
Like virtually every other day, I would say, of the Sports Hub existence, we would talk sports. And for those who don't know, the radio station I work for in Boston is the flagship station
Yeah.
for the
The
for the
biggest
Patriots.
sports
Yeah,
stations in the country.
yeah. Thank you. It is a far-reaching and it's been successful in ratings and by every standard since we essentially since we signed on almost 11 years ago now. But we're the flagship for the Patriots, the Bruins, and the Celtics, and we also talk a lot of Red Sox and other sports. So virtually every other day we would talk mostly sports, and then really embrace that one segment an hour, a couple segments a show, and it's different from show to show where you talk about something other than sports. You do like a lifestyle thing. Now we are
Scramble.
anything that's sports right now, like a true sports story, we are grabbing onto that thing and just choking the life out of it. It's like, no, don't let it go. We don't want to go back to talking about coronavirus meals that you're preparing for the family and the best way. No, please. So
Yeah.
we rode that Tom Brady story until it bucked us.
It's
And
gotta
it's
remind you, gotta remind you guys of after September 11th. How do you? A lot of people were looking for just something normal again, and like, let me just for a couple hours talk about sports and think about sports, so I can just give my brain a break from wrapping my head around this new reality.
Yeah, and to that end, we look forward to certain things that we don't know when they're going to take place. So instead, what we've been doing is kind of looking back. And yes, we're embracing any news story that comes along. But one thing that I'm really looking forward to talking about, and it'll be coming up here, I believe, a week from Tuesday, is going to be the 1 year anniversary of Tiger Woods' victory at the Masters.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
and it is going to be. My my strong push for the show that day to do multiple segments on
yeah.
what that meant, not only to golfers but just to sports fans around the world. It was one of those. I honestly, Michael, it was a borderline like world sporting event when that took place. That is one of the things that I think we can look back on here again.
I mean, I
Just
think I
a
cried.
year removed, and say I remember where I was. And I remember the situation where I was watching that unfold.
Even though now it seems like 5 years ago, but I
Yeah,
remember well. I think I shed a little tear because Tiger is a couple years younger than me, but sort of my childhood golf hero, right? Because we watched him change the game in front of our eyes.
I
And
cried like a baby. I am not
all right, I
ashamed of
did
it.
too.
Yeah, yeah. And let me tell you something. And this is where we don't have to behave like professional athletes on the golf course. If you want to get better and you want to play at the top and the absolute best of your but just show emotion. I try not to. I'm not good enough to get angry, but I can allow myself to ride the wave of emotions when I'm either playing or watching a sport. And
Yeah,
I took a ton of grief for it from my friends at work. Like, you didn't cry. I said, I absolutely cried when he walked off the green and embraced his kids. And CBS,
yeah,
those sons of mothers, did the juxtaposition of him hugging his father and
yeah.
then Tiger hugging his kids.
Yeah.
I couldn't take it.
It's such a great story of humanity, not just for golf fans, but to see this guy who is the elite of the elite, perhaps the best ever. I mean, easily top two, right?
Oh, yeah.
But for him to go through what he went through in his personal life and with his health and not knowing if he'd ever play again, and then to come back and get all the way back to that level to beat these young kids who are dying for a chance to just play him. And he said, "Oh, be careful what you wish for, because if you play me, I'm still Tiger Woods."
I read an oral history that is in, I believe, the latest Golf Digest that talks with a lot of players and Jim Nance and Mark Steinberg and a lot of different people, close to Tiger and who were there that day and had some insight to lend to it. And I believe it was Trevor Immelman, and I think Adam Scott echoed these same thoughts. What you just said, Michael, the kids playing today, a lot of them will say, man, I wish I had a chance to go up against Tiger in his prime. And they said, no, you don't.
No, it wasn't fun.
That's madness to think that's what you wanted. And what we saw, a year ago coming up, here very soon, wasn't even vintage dominating Tiger. That was older, wiser, manage the golf course Tiger and
Yeah,
allow others to make mistakes. These kids think they want to go up against Tiger Woods from 20 years ago when he lapped the field at the U.S. Open at
yeah.
Pebble Beach and won by 15 shots. Are you out of your mind? No,
It was
no.
only even fun to watch because it was so amazing that he was that much better than everyone. I mean, it was kind of boring to watch, but also like, oh my God, this guy is just, miles above everybody else.
It's funny. Yeah, from an entertainment standpoint, you're absolutely right. Like, that U.S. Open at Pebble Beach is a perfect example. It's like there was no doubt he was going to win it. Anytime he had a lead entering Sunday, there was, very little drama to it. But, a year ago at the Masters, that was dramatic. And
Yeah.
how everything unfolded, really starting at about, the 12th hole in that final group. They're playing in threesomes. because of
When
the
the
rain.
master starts, the
Yeah.
12th hole of the back nine.
Yeah, that was it was fantastic. So I'm looking forward to being able to talk about that at least in retrospect and kind of have a sports story, even if it's remember the good old days type of story. It'll be something we can talk about here
Yeah,
in
one
another
of the
week or
things when
so.
this started to get very real for me was when they canceled the Masters. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh no, this is
that's
really getting serious. And I don't know if you remember, but I actually called into the show that day to do a wellness check on you to see if you were okay.
yeah. I
And
mean that
also at
was
that time, the little subversive thing I did was like, hey, the golf courses were just starting to open in Boston. And while it was still safe, I was saying, get outside, go walk and carry your bag and stay away from people and clear your head because golf's a good game for that.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that a lot of courses aren't able to open for various reasons. And let's face it, we can't be trusted to go out there and do the right thing and stay apart from each other. But if there were a way for more courses to open up and say, look, you only go out and you play as twosomes, and everybody walks and carries their bags, and nobody touches the flag sticks.
Well,
Nobody
we've been
touches the ball washers, and if we could do that, it'd be a wonderful thing to be able to do during
They
these times.
actually categorized golf as an essential business in Florida to let people still go outside and get exercise and get some sanity. Now, I'm a little bit wavering on whether that's a good idea, but I have been playing for the last couple of weeks, I'll admit, on air in public. And immediately they've been doing that. Nobody touches the flag stick. They have little thing inserts inside the hole, so you don't
Pool
even
noodles,
reach in the
yeah,
hole. Yeah, hole
yeah.
noodles. They've
Yeah.
got no rakes in the bunkers. They've got kids disinfecting the golf cart completely before you get on it. And but last week they did send us out as a foursome, which was a weird thing. I was kind of like, I don't think that's a great idea to pair up two twosomes. But we ended up playing with these two guys that grew up in Malden.
Oh
And
wow.
me and my buddy from New Hampshire, all big sports fans, and turned out to be a couple of great guys. I gave them each a book, and they got one of the guys messaged me right that night saying, I was an alcoholic. This book reminds me of a lot of the things in AA. Control what you can, try to be the best version of yourself, and really, that was the whole thing. So for me, that was like a little message that, like, okay, you're okay. I was feeling guilty that I still went out and played because some people can't, and like, is it safe? Am I being responsible? Um, but to get that message of that I helped one person that day uh,
Right.
was great. So I wanted to say that when you do that show on the Masters, I definitely want to call in. I'd love
Okay.
to be, love to be part of that. And also, everybody's looking for a side hustle these days. In fact, I can even say in public now that I made $60 playing online poker with my friends last night. So
Oh boy. Oh boy. Some friend you are.
hey man, I got to do everything. I just lost. I mean, I built this business to run mostly on being fed by live talks, and
Yes.
that just all went away. So now I'm recalibrating. I'm doing these Zoom podcasts and trying to get sponsors in. I'm trying
Well,
to do Zoom talks for school kids and families that are cooped up and all that.
yeah. And it's actually and I am no great stay at home parent, homeschool or anything like that, but we're all being forced into that role right now. So along those lines, and my daughter who's 13, she's been, like the rest of us, antsy, wanting to know, what she can do, what's allowed, what isn't. And, as a lot of 13-year-olds do, they're like, how can I make money? There are things that I want, and she is, but believe me, the one thing I have taught her is that you don't get everything that you want. And,
Right.
this is you have to start earning things. So we have been kind of doing some entrepreneurial stuff that we have never done before. I
That's
spent
great.
my morning before you and I talked, boxing up old toys of hers that we posted and listed on eBay
Nice.
and sold a day or two ago, and they have to be shipped off today.
And we should say you definitely wiped them down, right? Before you
Oh
put
yeah,
them.
yeah, all that stuff, and she's working on something right now. She wants to start her own like lip gloss line, and she researched online on how
Wow.
to make it, and how she can sell it and all that stuff. So believe me, it sounds like we're really looking for the silver lining. We're positive, upbeat people, but what other choice do we have, Michael? We're trying to make the best of this situation, and assuming health for those, you love and those who are, closest to you. uh, we have to try and make something good out of this. And in all this time we're at home and spending together, it has resulted in a lot more family time for a lot of people.
Yep.
And in the case with my daughter and I'm learning some new skills together, and trying
Yeah.
to make the best of the situation. I
Great.
don't know that it's going to end up paying our mortgage this month, but thankfully
Hey, if it is, you'll be fine.
that's not something I'm worried about yet.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, your job is safe for a little while anyway. I think probably for a long while, but who knows what's going to happen? That's the crazy thing about this time. And that was actually one of the things that I was going to ask you was, tell me a story about something different or cool that's happened at home since you've been at home. So I'm glad we got that out of the way. And I think the golf metaphor. So we started our friendship and talking together because of our love for golf, and you really like my book, Zilosophy on Golf. I think it's
Yep.
backwards on Zoom, but you get the idea. um, and I think the golf metaphor is that we as a world have just shanked it into the woods. And how are we going to chop it out and continue on and find our way forward anyway?
Well, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got about that was from a friend of mine, a golfer named Steve Saint Amand. He lives in Salem, and just a great amateur golfer. He worked for the U.S. Postal Service for years, and he had a route in Salem that required him to carry most of the time, had that mail bag on his shoulder. So his forearms and his shoulders were constantly getting a workout, but just a great golfer. And he and I would go out and play. I even looped for him a couple of times when he was trying to qualify for mid amateurs and different tournaments. But he told me a long time ago, when you do, shank it into the woods, not that he ever shanked one, but I certainly have and do. He said, Hardy, you got to get in there, you got to take your medicine, and then you got to get back out there and do the best you can.
Yep.
Don't try and be a hero getting it out of the woods, trying to hit some ran off Juna shot that's gonna get through the trees and get you onto the back of the green on the last hole of a match against Hagen and Jones.
Yeah.
Just literally take or figuratively, I should say, metaphorically, take your medicine and get it out, and then finish what you're doing. And I think that's a good metaphor too. I mean, and again, I don't mean it literally, but right now, taking our medicine is akin to social distancing, uh, avoiding the things that we would normally just do without even thinking about it. Whether it's going to the store, whether it's getting together with friends, whether it's going out and playing a little pickup basketball, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Taking our medicine right now is staying home, being careful, being mindful of others, and even if you've had it or you're not going to get sick, whatever it is, you still pass it along to other people and do the best that we can. But you got to take your medicine first. You got to chop it out of the woods, get yourself back in the middle of the fairway and say, okay, I wasn't supposed to be here. This isn't what I deserve, but golf, like life, is all about the breaks, the ones that you deserve, the ones that you don't deserve, the good ones, the bad ones. It's how you deal with them after they happen that matters.
Yeah. Great. I mean, I should. If you lose your job, I'll put you out on the road as a philosophy on golf correspondent, because you seem to have almost a better grasp on the concepts than I do. But I want to
know, but believe me, there's a lot of that stuff in your book, and there are a lot of universal truths. No matter
when we did that talk, none of the stuff in the book is stuff we haven't heard before. I'm just saying it a different way and using golf metaphors to describe it.
But yeah, you're the person that you messaged with the other night, whether it's the the big book in AA, or whether it's whatever religious tome that you adhere to, there's some things that just make sense. And one of them is dealing with the things that life hands to you, good or bad. It's not about jumping up and down and stopping your feet and saying this isn't right, this isn't fair, and look what that guy's doing. How are you going to handle it? How are you going to keep your side of the street clean and make the best out of your situation? Control the things you can, let go of the things that you can't.
Yeah, I mean, the golf metaphor for me is, how often do you play better when you're stomping up and down and saying this isn't fair? No. right? So it's about playing the best that you can. And the reason I chose golf as my first thing, and I've done this podcast, and now I got the TV show, Zilosophy TV on YouTube. Um, but it was about how do we do the best we can during a difficult game, and that's what I want to transition to here. There's two chapters I want to hit real quick. We got about 10 minutes or so left.
Okay.
Um, the last two. Hole 17 in Zilosophy on Golf, available on Amazon, by the way, is Lessen the Pain, and it's Lesson, because the challenges we get in life, the challenges we get in golf, are presented to us as an opportunity to learn and grow. And if we don't take that opportunity to learn and grow, then we become miserable, we resist the lesson, and then it keeps ramming us over the head.
Right.
So talk about that. Do you have a funny story about learning a lesson on the golf course, or even in your life off the golf course, that you were resisting and then you finally gave in and learned it and were able to move on and keep going?
Well, I would like to say that I, have epiphanies on my own. And I think we all do.
That's what I'm here for. If
Yeah,
you don't,
yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you.
Oh my God. I've got two friends in particular that I always text with my driving range epiphanies when I figure
Love
out
it.
the game of
I
golf,
love it.
I text them immediately. But no, I think the best ones always, they end up coming from other people. And these same two guys have opened my eyes a couple of times. And one time was with my friend Rob Churchill, who actually works down in Florida now. And he and I were playing at President's in Quincy. And, I was having a frustrating front nine. And when we made the turn, we go over to the back nine. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And he said, okay, I, I'm not going to give you a lesson. I'm not going to touch your swing, but we're going to spend every shot for the back nine. We're going to talk about what you want to do, and then I'm going to tell you what you should do. I said, okay. So, and the first time it popped up was on the 12th hole. I'd been played all right. Par bogey on 10 and 11, but the 12th hole is a par five, and I missed my second shot a little bit, and I'd left myself about 40 yards in front of the green, and completely flat run up to the green. It's just it's a runway, right?
Yeah.
And I pull my lob wedge out of my bag, and Rob says, "What are you doing?" I said, I'm going to flop this thing in there. I'm going to get it nice and tight. I'm going to have a kick in for birdie. He said, how often have you done that in your life? I said, well, never, but that's not the point.
Right.
And he said, look, it's not just about, the positive reinforcement of hitting that good shot and remembering how to do it. He said, it's okay to remember the times that you've screwed it up and remember that pain too, and do whatever you can to avoid it. It's not a negative thought. You're not going to do that now. What are you going to do instead? And I said, I don't know. What am I going to do? He said, take out an 8-iron. And he said, I want you to take a borderline putting stroke with this thing. You can hinge a little bit on the way back, but I want you to putt this thing from 120 feet away. He said, the worst thing that's going to happen, it's going to end up on the front or the back of the green. He said, you'll put enough on it to get it there, and you're going to have a putt for your next shot. Okay. And I did it. I was like, oh, wait a second. It's not just about tapping into that one perfect shot. Maybe the one time when I did hit that flop from 40 yards out when I didn't need to. There's no bunker in front of me. There's no trouble.
Right.
It's also about remembering all the times you've screwed that up and say, wait a second, what am I going to do differently this time? And that back nine with Rob that day, we did it pretty much in every shot after that. I would reach for a driver on a tight hole. He's like, what are you doing? Put it away. Put it away. How many times have you found the fairway with that club in this hole? Never. Okay. Take out your 3-wood. Okay. And to me, Michael, it was that round, and it was about, trying to learn a little bit about the course management. And like I said, not just tapping into the perfect shot that you hit that one time, but allowing your mind to remember, all right, this hasn't worked out for me before. Am I going to get into this vicious cycle of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results? No,
Right.
do something different, something with a higher percentage of success, and just allow that to happen. It may not be the most fun or the sexiest thing you're going to do on the course that day, but you're not going to want to stomp around and tear your hair out after you hit
Right.
that shot either.
Well, that's a perfect example. And we didn't plan this ahead, but that is the perfect example for lessen the pain, right? When you play with the more mindful course management, you're more enjoyable. And this is a good metaphor for what's going on right now. Like we need to course manage our lives and make good choices
Yeah.
so that and not the hero choice necessarily, but the simple choice to stay home and protect ourselves and our families and everybody else. I mean, one thing that's been proven by this tragedy is that it can no longer be denied how connected we are. We are all in this together, whether we like it or not.
Right.
Maybe we should act like it, and maybe we should learn the lessons that it's teaching us, so that, and that to me is the biggest lesson. Like, if we can't find a way forward together from this, then we have no hope.
No, and I keep hearing that phrase, we're in this together, we're in this together. And then you see numerous examples from people either in authority or others who are just they might say we're in this together, but then they're not doing the things that are expected of everybody at this time.
Right.
So
Yeah, well,
it's
that's a good distinction. Saying we're in this together and acting in accordance with that statement are two different things.
right. And I'm not going to single anybody out. I don't want to get into it. Look, there are figures in the sports community who have engaged in behaviors that I question here
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
That I just say, on one hand, it's either you or the team, rah, rah, we're in this together and we're going to fight this thing. But then you're going off and doing things that fly in the face of not only, common sense in terms of what we've been told to do and not do right now, but could have an actual adverse effect on, getting past this thing. So
Right.
I'm much more impressed by actions. The problem is, Michael, right now, the most virtuous actions right now, aside from Robert Kraft sending a plane over to China and coughing up $2 million of his own money to bring
Yeah.
back a bunch of masks, which I find so admirable and so just awesome on so many levels. But
Yeah.
the most virtuous acts right now are, I think, non-acts. The people who are staying home and not doing anything.
Yeah.
That's really to be commended right now. But by virtue of what they are, we don't see them. So it's tough to applaud them and give that person credit for not doing anything. But that's what we're supposed to be doing right now. It's essentially nothing.
It is, and it's a great metaphor too. I'm going to think about this, but like, that's a great golf metaphor. Sometimes the best thing to do when you're playing golf is to do nothing. It's like some Yoda Zen on golf, right?
Right. Oh, what should I do here? Nothing. Let it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Get out of the way and do
Yeah.
nothing. And I want to say that I appreciate you not singling out people, because one thing I've noticed, and you obviously you see this in your job with sports radio, is the whole entertainment base of that is to attack each other and argue and debate and all that. But this is a really dangerous time to do that, and I've seen a lot of people shaming other people, judging other people, and one thing I want to say about that is to remember. One thing I've talked about in my book and all the stuff I do on Zilosophy is that the reason for this podcast is because we're all facing challenges. Mm-hmm. And golf is a super challenging game. How do we meet those challenges and do our best? And how do we encourage each other instead of shaming and judging each other? And so I think that the message there is, let's not judge people for how they're reacting to this, because they're going through a really hard time too, and they're human and they might make mistakes. The thing to do to get to that person that you don't think is acting appropriately is to be empathetic and compassionate. Like, hey, are you okay? I'm just checking in to make sure you're all right. All right, well, listen, I just want to encourage you to make good choices for all of us, right? And
Yeah.
be a friend and be a positive person to them, because they're struggling too.
It's the toughest thing in the world to look at someone who you have a resentment toward and wish nothing but the best for them, and to take it that one step further, like you just said, Michael, actually reach out to that person, whether they're close to you, whether they're just a neighbor, whether it's someone that you see, right. And to not wag your finger and call the police, but to extend them some kindness, extend them, your honest to goodness,
This matters wristband here.
right, without any thought of any return for yourself. Just try and be completely selfless and say, hey, is everything okay? You doing all right? And it's tough to make that transition to remind them what we're supposed to be doing right now. But sometimes even that little gesture, that extension of goodwill can, turn on something in someone's head and make them think, oh, I wonder why that guy's reaching out to me. Oh, well, maybe I should be doing this instead of that.
I agree. And, it's a difficult thing to do, but if we're all connected and we are all in this together, then we need to do that. We don't need to always like each other, but we do need to always respect and show love for each other because we are connected. And what we do to somebody else, I mean, you talked about religion earlier, do unto others, as you do to yourself. That's
Yeah.
really the golden rule applies here. Like, we all have to think that we're all in this together, and everything we do to someone else, we're really just doing to ourselves. So is that really, and that goes back to a great golf metaphor too, about beating ourselves up and all that stuff. Like, does that really help the situation, being overly critical of ourselves or someone else? No, it doesn't help you play better.
No.
So
It doesn't help you. It doesn't help anyone else. It might actually inspire somebody. If you're playing with the wrong guy and you start, giving him crap, then it can inspire them to greatness. And be careful, you're going to lose your match.
yeah, hope it's a cheap one. Just a couple of quick things, and then I want to go to the last chapter very quickly, and then we'll end on that. So I'll
Sure.
just wrap up stuff here because the last chapter is about enjoy the journey. So I want to end on that. But
Okay.
first, I want to ask you: we talked over text the other day about the Sports Hub Golf Club and what the plan is for that? And I'm not asking solely selfishly, although I would like to know because we agreed that I'd do some Zilosophy on golf
Yeah.
moments for that show. And I do want to re-record anything I sent you because anything from 3 weeks ago is like a year out of date now.
Yeah.
So I want to retool those for that if you're going to do it. But is the show gonna continue?
Well, right now, in terms of what we're doing with our weekend programming, and we've stayed on the air. We've had a morning, midday, afternoon, and night show. Throughout this thing with either one person in the studio or everybody broadcasting from home. We have we haven't gone off the air, and there are some other entities around the market and around the country that have just and again, it's not their fault. They don't want to, but they had to just close shop. They just had to start, running other stuff, either network programming or infomercials or whatever. So far we haven't had to do that. Part of the way we do that is by limiting the number of people in the building and, the actual, nerve center of the radio station. And while I can do my golf show on moving to Sunday mornings this year, from home, it still requires people to be in the building to kind of manage the broadcast from the that transmission site. So unfortunately, until we get past this, a lot of our weekend programming is just put on hold. You're only going to hear, whereas before you would hear 3 or 4 live shows throughout the course of a Saturday and Sunday, you're going to hear 1 or 2, and that's just limiting the number of bodies that pass through the door and keeping things as safe as we can for the people who do have to still go in there every day. And eventually we'll get it ramped up. My hope would be beginning of May. We'll probably have about a 30-day delay on the start of the show this year.
Great. Well, keep me informed. And in the meantime, I mean, look, we all have to make sacrifices, right? People are looking for content. So if you want to do a quick 15-minute thing every weekend to do just an offline, not on air, but, we'll put it out on social media, we can talk about that offline.
Okay.
I'm working on all my side hustles too, right? There's money involved in that, but promotion is money too. Speaking of side hustles, because I do want to end on enjoy the journey. If you could talk to your bosses at the Sports Hub and ask them if they're looking for a Tom Brady correspondent. I'm just an hour down the road from St. Pete. So
we've already had several hands shoot up around the radio station of people offering to be transferred to the Tampa St. Pete area.
Right.
Just for the football season, really just the colder months. Starting about late October, into February, and covering the Super Bowl down there as well. So all I can say to you, Michael, is get in line.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm here first, so if you need a quick 5 minute
Oh,
report from outside the stadium that I can do safely, I'm your guy.
okay.
But
Well,
the thing,
I'll pass that along.
I'm glad we're laughing because this is what I want to finish on, which is enjoy the journey, hole 18. Golf is a very difficult, very challenging game. Life is a very difficult, very challenging game. They're supposed to be fun. And so, how do we find fun when we're going through just a really super hard time, which everybody is right now? Wherever you are on the spectrum of misery from COVID-19, we're all suffering in some way,
Hmm.
emotionally, physically, financially, any of it. So, how do you have fun? And
Yeah.
if you want to share, do you have a golf story of a miserable round that you found a way to enjoy somehow?
Yeah. I mean, my philosophy in terms of the kind of golfer I decided to be a long time ago was, again, this is not mine, but you should try and be two of three things if you're going to be a golfer: be good, be fast, be fun. Now, if you can be all three of those things, then you are,
That's
I,
the trifecta.
yeah, well, you're Lee Trevino, you know?
Right.
Yeah, you're good, you play fast, and you're a good time. But most of us can aspire only to one or two. Try and be at least two of those. So for me, Michael, good waved bye-bye to me a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I play fast and I try and be fun, not just for me, but for everyone. If, I'm lying for and my ball's in my pocket and I'm up on the green, 10 in the pin and talking trash slash encouragement to the other guys in my group, and to me, that's how you should approach every round, not to sound like, I've got it all figured out, because Lord knows I don't. But,
Of course.
an example of a fun time on the golf course, I have a fun time on the golf course every time. There's,
Right.
and whatever we're doing, that should be the one thing that you're doing. I'm not constantly on my phone. I really don't get into the whole, like, playing music on a speaker or in a cart or something. I just kind of like be in that moment. I just enjoy being out there. And the most fun I've had really on the golf course in the last year has probably been out there with my kids, with my wife and or my kids,
Wow.
where we don't go out and play 18. We don't even play 9. Sometimes we play 4 holes. We'll do the little loop from, back, 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, back to the clubhouse. And everyone's still in a relatively good mood, a little frustrated. And to me, that's the most important thing, just to be out there, keep things moving, have fun. And when you hit your good shots, act like that's what you do all the time and it was supposed to happen. That's the most fun thing for me, is when I do hit a good shot, try not to be surprised at myself. Just try and be at peace with it.
Well, I think that that's great, and that's a great way to end. Basically, what you're saying is that you just choose to have fun no matter what's happening out there.
Sure. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's a great lesson for us right now. It's really that simple. We can still choose. This is a super difficult, heavy time. And because you're choosing to have fun doesn't mean you're not empathetic and that you don't care. It means that you've got an outlook on life that you're going to try to find a way to enjoy it, and you're going to choose to enjoy it no matter what's going on.
Yeah, and Michael, the other thing too is, just to prove that, I this is not something I've been able to pull off consistently in my life. There have been times when I have walked off the golf course. I could not get out of my own way. I was not having a good time, and I said, you know what, that's it. And I didn't even do it. The one time in particular, back over at President's in Quincy, I was standing on the tee box of the 6th hole, and I had it just, the first 5 holes were an absolute crime scene.
Yeah.
And I pushed one into the fairway. If you're familiar with that golf course, I haven't played it in a long time, but I pushed one into the adjoining fairway and almost killed some poor person, who made the mistake of hitting his ball in the fairway. And
Right.
I almost killed that guy. I'm like, I can't control myself. I can't control my emotions. And I turned to my playing partners, who I had just met that day, and I showed up as a single. I said, you know what, guys, it's not working for me today. We're all going to be better off if I leave you at this time. And I
Wow.
walked off the golf course. I said, sorry, but this is how it's got to be. And,
There's,
and there are times when it's like, you got to know when to say when. I'm like, nope,
yep.
it's not happening today. And as much, I can't force the fun. It's not happening today.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that, you need to be careful with that because sometimes we can pull the ripcord too early.
Sure.
Right. But I think that what you're saying in that story is true. Sometimes it's okay to stop and put ourselves in timeout, which we're all being forced to do right now. If it's really, really not anywhere near your best version of yourself, it's okay to say, you know what? Let me just pause and regroup and try again next time.
And to have like the self-awareness to say the best thing I can do for the world right now is to get this version of me away from other people.
Is
That's
it,
probably
I,
that's
I'm a
probably
big
the greatest gift I can give.
I'm a big proponent of that. When I'm tired and cranky, I lock myself in quarantine. And on the regular, just energetically, I'm like, I can't be around people because I'm not a good person right now.
My wife is great at that. She's been quarantining herself from the three
From
of
the
us
family.
on a damn near daily basis for half an hour at a time for years. She's
Yeah,
great at it. She
yeah.
knows.
And
Yeah,
that's
she's
a wise decision to, when you need your alone time so that you
that's
can be
right.
better when you're with everybody. And again, that's a great way to wrap this up and remind everybody that's what we're doing. We're being forced to have our alone time. So
Yeah,
let's explore that. Sometimes it's better to be away from each other and then regroup and recalibrate and figure out who do we want to be? Who do I want to be as a golfer? Who do I want to be as a person? All right, and you said it. As a golfer, you choose to just be fun and fast.
that's
Great.
it.
And by the way, I know you're handicapped, so you're also pretty good on the general spectrum. But good is a relative term, especially in golf, right?
My I've been described many ways as having the best swing of a bad golfer. That was from Matt Walsh at Warwick Country Club. Said I had the best swing of a bad golfer you'd ever seen. And
Uh,
my friend Scott Hawley, who used to play on the Canadian tour, who shot a 59 one time out at Pleasant Valley. This guy's a player, and he said, Hardy, it's not just that you're a bad golfer, which you are. He said you make the worst decisions on the golf course I've ever seen. But part of that, Michael, I swear, part of it is me just trying to have fun. I'm like, hey man, I'm going to cut the dog leg here. I'm going to set up and hit a high fade over the corner here. And it's like,
see if
no,
you
you're
can.
not, dummy. You're going to snap hook it like you most
Yeah.
often do. But
Take it easy, Tin Cup. Maybe just just hit it 120 yards and put yourself in a good spot.
yes,
But you mentioned 59, which reminded me, Jason Gore is going to come on the podcast. He was actually the fourth one I ever did, but it was on my janky old laptop when he was still in California before he went to work for the USGA. And the audio got so corrupted, I could never release it. So he's going to come back on. And I had thought about actually trying to see if I could get the scheduling so that we would all just do this together and you guys would sort of meet on air. But maybe we'll still do that when he confirms. I'll see if you're around and maybe we'll
it'd be great.
get part of it.
Well, I realize, Michael, I probably contradicted myself about 5 times today in terms of
Yeah,
things that
that's right.
I say to do or I want to do and don't do. But I tell you this much: this has been fun. So
Yeah, good.
hey, we're having fun
I'm
here.
glad, and we went a little bit over, but we've been having fun. And I know you want to get it. Like you said, the weather's been miserable there. You got to get out of that house with the kids and get some fresh air.
Get
But
that
please
dog
take care of yourself and your sanity. We all need to do that. And so whatever you can do safely to get out for a couple hours here and there, I think is a great idea. So
Yeah,
uh,
I appreciate it. Thanks, Michael.
thank,
You too. Stay safe down there.
thanks for being on. We'll be in touch, and let's all find a way to just have fun in a tough time.
Sounds good.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks, Michael.
Okay. Have it, the Zilosophy podcast with Rob Hardy Poole. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a great time with him. I hope we get to do more. Oh, one thing I didn't mention in the intro was that Hardy was the second celebrity I've had on the podcast. The first was Scott Walter, which was supposed to be the second because the original first was Jason Gore. But I recorded that podcast on my old janky laptop. He was like the fourth one I ever did. and the audio got corrupted and I never got to release it. But now through Zoom, we're talking about doing it again. So stay tuned. I hope I get Jason Gore on. He said he's going to do it. We just need to find time. He now works for the USGA, who runs the US Open, and obviously they're scrambling to figure out what they're going to do this summer. Nobody knows yet, right? So, and Jason wrote the foreword of the book. He's a former professional golfer and a classmate of mine at Pepperdine, for those who don't know. Anyway, ways to support me. I need your help, guys, so I can keep doing this. PayPal, z@zilosophy.org, Venmo at Michael-Zildjian. The new GoFundMe is up, Zilosophy for families on lockdown, so that I can help you navigate the choppy waters of being locked inside together. We all know how challenging that is and how confronting that can be, but it can also be a great opportunity. So let me help your family, and if you for $50, and if you contribute at least $100, I'll help another family too, someone that you choose or someone that I find that needs it, that can't afford to chip in $50. Also, as you just saw, Zilosophy on Golf is available on paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon. Please pick it up. It's a great book to read or listen to while you're on lockdown. It's very fast. I have one friend who read the entire thing in 3 hours. There's chapters. You can read one a day. It's a very good book and very helpful. You don't have to know anything about golf to get something out of this book, I promise you. So check that out. The theme song, Surf by Captain Blackheart. You can find them on iTunes. To find out more about me, visit zilosophy.org. You can also, if you want to email me, you want to be a guest on the podcast, now through Zoom, I can do, we don't have to, there's a lot less coordinating, so I can do podcasts with anybody anywhere. So if you want to be the guest, or you want to, you know someone who wants to be a guest, or you have a topic, email me at info@zilosophy.org. And that's it. That's it for today. I hope, again, stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. Be kind. This is a time that's very challenging. Most importantly, be kind to yourself and be kind to others. We will find a way through this. I don't know how, but I promise you we will. Hang in there, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.